Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for being here for a very special base camp meeting. I can tell this one is going to be special because we were all already cracking up and smiling before we even got started. It's even somebody's birthday here today on base camp. We've got a packed house, so we are going to have a really, really good time. And how can we not have a good time today? Because our guest is Alan Shapiro. And it's funny because I think Alan's great, but I know everybody else does too because we have a packed house and everybody was like, "Yay, Alan!" as soon as we got here. So, anyway, if this is your first time at base camp, welcome to you. We do this 2 times a month, every single month of the year. We're a 100% online virtual club. We're really happy to have you here today. And for those of you guys who are regulars, welcome back. If you have not experienced Alan's workshops before or any of his appearances on like our last summit or anything like that, you guys are in for a treat today. Alan is a super creative photographer, and I absolutely love his work, but I also love that he just brings a spirit of fun to his education. So I'm super excited to have him here today for that. So he's going to be talking to us today about editing, and I know that we're going to learn a lot from him. For those of you guys who are not familiar with his work, he does amazing photography, like I want to say like food photography, but he also mixes it in with still life. And he's also a sought after educator at workshops where he teaches botanicals. So, I mean, he really is like has a wide range of work. He does portraits. His work has been seen on the entire set, which I think is so
Hey,
awesome,
Betty.
of Sex in the City, ABC's The Good Doctor,
Here, Benny.
in
Benny, come.
campaigns for Apple and Nikon,
Benny,
Cadillac,
come.
OnStar, US Navy, so
Benny,
many
come.
different companies. So that's awesome.
Here.
And I am going to turn this over to Alan so he can get going. He asked me to let you guys know that he really wants to know what you guys want to see. So make sure you put your questions in the chat and I will read them to him as he goes. So, Alan, thank you so much for being here at Basecamp.
Okay, hey everybody. So for those who don't know me, I shoot people, I shoot flowers, I shoot food, I shoot rubber bands and junk drawers, I shoot anything and everything because I have a brain that is more like a carnival than anything else, and I just need to keep myself occupied. And for, I'm sure you can relate, photography for probably all of us is equal parts therapy and exercise and relaxation and yoga and all of the things. And it's not just photography, but it's both parts of photography. It's the taking of the pictures. That's like kind of the more active exercise part. But when you get home, this is the cerebral part. It's the emotional part. It's the super creative part where you get to take the raw ingredients. For me, who are the cooks in the crowd? It's like it's cooking. It's taking all the raw ingredients and mixing them up and adding some spice and some stuff and seeing what you can come up with. And for me, the funnest part is like taking the same image and doing it over and over and over and over again and seeing what you can get. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about and we'll go from there. I am going to be working primarily in Lightroom. I hope that's okay with you. Everything I'm going to show you also works in Adobe Camera Raw, and the concepts also work in Photoshop. So if you are a Photoshop person, everything I'm going to talk about is kind of the same thing. It's just, you may have to set an adjustment layer rather than working in a local mask or what have you. Okay. So when I talk about having like multiple variations, here's what I'm talking about. This is probably one of the first flower images I ever took. It's probably 12 years old, and I keep coming back to it. And like every couple of months or every couple of days, I will do a different version of it. And it's just like, why not? And that has become part of a daily practice. I shoot for an hour a day and I process for an hour a day, sometimes a lot more when I'm working on assignment. Sometimes that's just it if I'm doing other things or doing pre-pros with clients. And it's really just to see what's possible and to experiment. When I'm working with clients, it's about doing exactly what they need me to do. It's doing it quickly and with precision. When I'm working for myself, this daily exercise regimen that I call it, it's about experimenting and pushing myself and making wonderful mistakes and trying things that I wouldn't normally try to see. I don't know, maybe I can find something new to see how far I can push an image, right? So that's what I want you thinking about. This isn't about a definitive right way to do something. This is about finding your voice, finding something that makes you feel happy, delighted, um, or that lets you see an image and having you push it in a particular way that makes you stand out from all your peers, either in your camera clubs or among your base camp peers or whatever. So I do a lot of different work to just see what's possible. So here, let's start with this. And I'm going to show you a whole bunch of techniques that I think some of which I'm going to try and not do the basic stuff. But if you have questions that are more basic, please don't hesitate to ask me. I don't want to be too simplistic, but I'm happy to uh, dumb things down, for lack of a better word. So this is where photographers get really vulnerable. Like they show you their original images, like their raw images, because they're always like, ugh. So here's the raw image. Like, okay, after, before, ugh, vulnerable. But so the first thing I always do is I decide on the crop because I got to get rid of all the crap that I don't want to see. Am I allowed to say crap on a recorded thing? Sure, I am. So this is where I want to be with her. This is at the Mermaid Parade here in New York, in Brooklyn. If you haven't been, you should go because it's Halloween in the middle of summertime with mermaids and what have you. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some very, very basic corrections. I'm going to choose a color profile. We've got lots of choices, many, many more than are visible here. I've got favorites selected. For me, this is just a way of quickly seeing some basic directions, but I do have my favorites, and each of you are going to have your own camera basics based on the camera system you shoot with. This is where yours will be very different than mine. I'm a Fuji shooter. You Canon and Nikon and Sony and Sigma and Olympus shooters will all have different names for your profiles, but certainly look and browse through them and choose some favorites. And then you will have some uh, some more creative profiles, Adobe in their infinite wisdom or just wanting to help nudge you along, will give you a range of artistic profiles, black and white profiles, modern profiles, and vintage profiles. These are all suggestions that will show you what's possible. The nice thing about these is that for just these three groupings of creative profiles, if you'll notice up here, no matter which one you choose, it sets it in the middle and it lets you dial it down or up so you can take it even further. So that's a fun way of just saying, ooh, that's kind of interesting. And for some of you, you may be done. Um, for others, we may want to just go back and we want to have a little bit more control. So know that this is there. I want to take her to a more vivid place, so I'm going to choose Adobe Vivid. It is one of my absolute favorites, and we're going to be done with that. And then I'm just going to look overall and I'm going to say, you know what? I want to reduce my highlights. This is kind of a standard move for me. And I'm going to open up my shadows. And all that does is it gives me a little bit more detail. Reducing my highlights gives me more details in the lightest parts of my image, brings out the detail. Look at the shell over here and look what happens when it's a regular exposure and I reduce the detail. You can start seeing things coming out. Can you see that okay from where you're at? Or should I zoom in? Just nod your heads or something. When I open up the shadows, I'm just giving myself a little bit of a smoother contrast range because I don't want things to be too harsh at the onset. I want to be in control of that. I may also, looking at my histogram, notice it's a very light image, so I expect it to be toward the brighter end of the range. I may take my exposure down a touch, just a little bit, and that's sort of all I'm going to do in my basic panel. That's it. I'm not going to touch my vibrance or my saturation. I could if I want to, and but that is more of a wholesale change, and I don't want to do that. I want to be in total control on a very specific level. I don't just want to move every color to an extreme, either a little bit or a lot. And by the way, the difference between vibrance and saturation, vibrance skews more toward the colors in the mid-tonal ranges. Saturation skews every color one way or the other. So vibrance is preferable. I would suggest to you that only in the rarest situations should you even touch saturation. That's Alan's rule, doesn't have to be yours. But you can play with vibrance a little bit depending on the image. For portraits, I rarely touch it. Rather, I'm going to jump down to the color mixer on an image like this, and I'm going to look at maybe I want to take her pink hair and brighten it up a little bit. So I want to increase the saturation in her hair, so I'm going to play with the red slider a little bit. I may want to increase the green of her skin. So that is probably a combination of both green and yellow. We can do that individually, or a pro tip is when in doubt, go to the selection tool next to each of these and drag in the skin tone and watch the sliders. So you'll see here, her skin is primarily yellow. There's really very little green. So when you don't know what color you need to be adjusting, use this selection tool. So I'm going to dial up the yellow in her skin a little bit. And I think that's all I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to start getting very localized. I want to obviously play with some local masking around her eyes, her teeth, maybe her lips. And this is where Lightroom in particular has made tremendous strides in giving you AI-based tools that are pretty remarkable. I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't feel really comfortable in what they've been able to do. So we're going to go up into the local masking tool now. It is going to immediately start detecting people. We'll give it a few seconds. And as it's looking at all of the different parts of her face, and it's identified that there is one person. And if I click on this, now if I had a photograph of two people, it would, or more, it would identify each of those people individually. And then it's going to say, do I want to select the entire person? Absolutely not. Never, never, ever, ever. But I want to select her skin. And now I can make a decision. Do I want to select her facial skin and her body skin? Or do I want to do that together? And I may want to do it together. So I'm gonna keep things separate for now. But I'm going to select every single one of these. And I'm going to create 8 separate masks. And it's going to create the masks right here. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again. And now it's not going to automatically select people. I'm going to come to this drop down, and I'm going to select people again. Now I'm going to combine the face and the body, and I'm not going to create two separate masks. I'm going to create a new mask that is a combined mask. Now I have her skin together. Now I'm going to create a mask of the subject. And we'll see how it does. Pretty damn good. And now from that, I'm going to create an invert of that mask, but I'm going to duplicate it, which is giving me the background. And now I could do a couple of things. If I were smart, I would save all of these without any changes as a preset. I would go in and I would click here and I would create preset and I would check none and I would select all of the masks. Remember, they're all AI generated. So anytime I have a woman, it is going to look at every one of those components, her facial skin, her eyes, her eyebrows, her teeth, the whites of her eyes, the pupils, the subject, the background, and I'm going to create a preset that is going to be woman blank masks. And now I have saved time and I'm going to put it in my, let's see, do I have, yes, Alan portrait. And now I'm going to create this. Now I've just saved myself whatever the 3 minutes that I took creating those masks. And I never have to do that again. Anytime I'm doing a portrait and I want to create some generic masks, I have them saved for the next time and the time after that. Now, they're empty. So, because this woman's teeth or skin is going to have a different level of retouching than someone else's, depending on her age. She's obviously wearing makeup, so we may want to take it a little bit further. So I don't want to save the masks with pre-assigned corrections made. I just saved the masks, but I still saved a lot of time, right? So now I can go in and I could say, okay, let's look at her skin and let's take the clarity down a little bit. And maybe we're going to increase the texture a little bit. I always do that. For women, I will look at a reduction in the clarity and an increase in the texture just a little bit, depending on the age. For men, you can take a lot more texture because we want to look gritty and rugged and macho, but women, we want to look softer. Not universally. I mean, there are exceptions depending on how androgynous or metrosexual we all are. I don't want to make universal overgeneralizations, but for this case, work with me, folks. And we may want to, I don't know, let's maybe look at a little bit of, do we want to cool her skin down or warm it up? So any of the kind of more creative changes we want to make to her skin, we can make here. With her hair, let's go to her hair mask. And by the way, those of us who are beta testers for Adobe and Lightroom, we keep begging them to, you'll notice when you click on a mask, the main mask title is just the number, and you have to click into it to see what it is. We're begging them to please, please, please make this mask name hair and not have me have to hunt for it, but we're working on it. So now I may want to increase the texture of her hair. I may want to increase the contrast a little bit just to, can you, and now one of the things that I love to tell people, just so you can see the difference, is just be the pendulum with the slider, just so you can see what's happening. I'm taking the contrast all the way up. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the final move, but I want you to see what the effect does. So as we're going with less contrast or more, we're going back and forth, and we're eventually going to settle. I'm probably going to settle here because I want a little more contrast. I may want to darken her hair a little bit, so I may take the contrast down just a teeny bit, going in very tiny increments. And I may want to look at maybe brightening or darkening the brightest whites a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do, and so on and so forth. So we can keep going. I may want her lipstick to be very saturated, but here I may want to just change the color of her lipstick. So instead of this very lovely turquoise, if I want to make it a little bit more purple or maybe, more monochromatic green, I have all of the controls on a very localized level. So we don't have to move that. Let's spend time with the eyes, because as the window to the soul, that's what we care about most. Let's come way in and let's see what we can do. So here we go. Come on down. Hello. There we go. Okay. Where did my mask go? Come back. Come back. Where did you go? No. See? There we go. Okay. So I want her eyes to glow a little bit. So I'm going to take the exposure up a little bit. I'm going to reduce the contrast. I'm going to really up the whites. And I'm going to really dial up the texture. And just so you can see a before and an after, here's it off and on. I don't know how well you're able to see that through Zoom. So off and on. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Angel, for nodding, because you're all I can see over there. By the way, is my camera on? I feel like I've been frozen forever.
I think it was off for a minute. Let me.
My camera, hang on, let me stop video and start video. Because I
There you
speak
go.
with my hands, so now you can, okay. And let's do one other thing, and then we'll move to a different image. Hopefully this is the whites of her eyes. Yes. So here, now for the whites of her eyes, I'm just going to dial up the whites. But now that is probably a mistake. I might be better off bringing up the exposure and just reducing the saturation. And here's what I want you all to do. I want you to spend some time looking in the mirror. And for those of you that have makeup mirrors or magnifying mirrors, I want you to look at the whites of your eyes, and you're invariably going to see that it's more red from the veins that are in your eyeballs. And you're going to see that more than anything, you don't really want to just brighten them to white, because that's going to look unnatural. You may want to just reduce the saturation. You may want to reduce some of the coloring. For older people, sometimes their eyes tend to go a little bit yellow. So it's likely more of a saturation reduction than even an exposure brightening or a white brightening. That's the same for teeth. When we go to her teeth, we really don't want to just brighten them, because, she's not a newscaster. It looks fake. And people are going to know that, unless she's a Hollywood celebrity and more like a B-list celebrity, we don't want to do that. We probably just want to take the saturation down a little bit, which might reduce any yellowing. And maybe we just want to subtly look at taking the highlights up just a little bit. Now, depending on the image and depending on the age of the person, yeah, you can give it a little help, and you can give them a trip to the dentist's office for some instant whitening, but be very careful. So now let's see what we ended up coming with. Boom. So there is, let's do before, after. Okay. Quick, and if I wasn't explaining it, probably could have done this in 5 minutes. So is it a labor of love? Not really. It becomes second nature once you figure out a routine, and you just jump right into it. Let's do something else.
Ellen,
Questions?
Before we move on, there's a couple of questions,
Yep.
and I also had a question. So, on when you were creating the masks and you were selecting all the possibilities for a human, all the different layers, uh, and then you created a preset.
Mhm.
Now on the landscape one, they have the same thing, but you can do sky,
Mhm.
mountains, water, like that. So could we do that same process, but for
You
landscapes?
You absolutely could. This works. Any place that they have gone to an AI based, we can identify sky versus foreground versus whatever. I just want you to be very careful. My experience with the landscape based ones have not been as successful as with the portrait based ones because the sky sometimes bleeds into, depending on the landscape, the mountains, the seascape, the whatever. So it's a little bit less perfect. So I want you to try it, but not be totally reliant on it. I do enough portrait work where I'm pretty confident. And even then, if I'm doing client critical work, I am not, I am doing everything from scratch every time, or there is a line item for a retoucher who is way better than I am. So just depends on who it's for and how important it is to you and all of that. Okay. Likewise for food. So see what works. You're going to find that, for instance, when we were talking about things like the adaptive profiles, let me get out of here and let me go back to like not the color mixer, in the basic profile and in the browser panel, there are two profiles called adaptive color. And Adobe is so excited about these, and they've been talking about them and saying, oh my God, best thing we ever did. We created an adaptive color profile and an adaptive black and white profile. And folks, they stink. They absolutely stink. I don't know what images they've been testing them on, but across the hundreds of images that I keep trying it on, hoping it's going to work, I haven't found one. Haven't found one yet. So there you go. Um, let me
So we
jump.
had a couple of other questions, if you don't
Ahead.
mind.
Yeah.
So one person wants to know, uh, Monica, she says, hi from Chicago. My biggest question is no matter what you shoot, it still looks like you. I'd love to know the secret to having a consistent editing approach across genres.
Oh, that makes me so. Thank you, Monica, and that makes me sad. And so I don't want all my images to look like me. But truly, and if they do, I have to work harder. It could be because I have a color sensibility that is maybe a little bit more vivid and a little bit more whatever. It could be that my black and white work is maybe, I don't know, but I don't I don't think that unless you're working on a project, a particular project, and I highly recommend every one of you have multiple projects going all the time where you're collecting fire hydrants or dogs taking a poop or your kids cooking or whatever your project or ivy growing up walls, that project can be consistent by subject or by process, but I don't believe our work as artists should be consistent. I think it should be as varied as possible. Like think about Picasso and all the periods he'd had, and I don't know. So, but if you want to be consistent, develop a range of presets or of recipes and formulas for your work and save them and know that depending on the image, even those presets are never going to universally deliver the same exact result because the amount of contrast in your image, the amount uh, of like darks to lights to midtones is going to vary. Even the subject is going to demand a different approach. So you're always going to need to tweak your recipe a little bit, always. Like I have all of these presets that have worked for whatever the image is, and as I cycle through them, they're not like, let me get to a different image and we'll go from there. My system is going a little bit slow. Yeah, you're seeing it. Even though these are like proven recipes that whether they've been for client projects or given, whatever, here the images are horrible, right? So it's something that worked for one image, but it doesn't work for another. So know that it's more fun to create a new recipe each time. Don't you think? I can't see Monica's face, so I don't know. I want to talk you out of having a common look as best I can. And again, just today. Ask me tomorrow, I may have a different opinion. Let's go here. I'm totally fascinated by this image and I want to undo it because I was playing around with it. I was walking around. I was walking around San Francisco a while ago, and I happened to look up and I saw this scene, and it just like made me laugh out loud because it was like 6 a.m. and I was on my morning photo walkabout, and it'll become apparent. I don't know what made me look up, but here it was. And so, God, what would make someone have a mannequin in their window dressed as a French maid? But it was San Francisco, so I guess I could intellectualize it. And she was way up. This is probably, a third or fourth floor. So I did the best I could to like hold the camera over my head and try and correct. I didn't have a tilt shift lens, but like the whole thing messes with my head. So I wanna really quickly try and fix this for you. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm looking at my histogram, and obviously I've got room to open the image up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decide, do I just want to open up my whites? Maybe. Or do I want to open up the exposure on everything? Not really, because what's happening when the exposure for me is like I'm shifting everything over, and I don't know that I want to do that. So I'm going to go back to my whites, and I'm just going to bring that. I'm going to look at optimizing that. By the way, double clicking on whites, on the word whites, holding down the shift key is going to tell Lightroom in this case to optimize the whites. And so it automatically clicks. And the same thing for blacks. And you'll see it's going to shift down a little bit. And if I double click on each of these, it's going to almost do the equivalent of like auto exposure. Now I'm going to undo this all real quick just to show you that if I do it with auto, I get to a slightly different equation. So there's always multiple ways to do it. So I can click on auto. Now I didn't even choose a profile. I'm not going to intentionally on this one. So I'm going to look at this and notice it didn't take my whites all the way before. I think I was on 70 or 67. So here we go. That's too bright for me. So even though we are all trained to believe that Adobe knows everything, don't take their word for it. Figure it out for yourselves. So now we've got a basic thing, and now more than anything, I want to try and make sense of the angles in this. So I'm going to come down here to transform, and I've got this upright tool. I don't know how much you've all played with it, but what I want to do is I want to see how much of this image I can straighten out without losing the piece parts. So I'm finding a dominant vertical line, and in this case, it is the drainage pipe in the middle. I suppose I could have chosen the line between the stucco wall and the brick. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to choose one other line. In this case, it's the window edge here. And now I'm really worried because I'm losing this down here. I'm losing a little bit of the blue, and I really want to keep that. So I'm going to cheat this line a little bit. I'm not going to straighten it so much. And I'm going to see if I can keep a little bit more of it. And that's kind of good enough for me because I'm sort of liking just the interesting lines in it. But more than anything, I want to come in and I want to see what I can do to make these windows a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to select the object. And with the object, because a window is an object, right? You've got two choices. You've got a paintbrush and you've got a rectangle. And because I'm feeling lazy and I want to keep things moving, I'm going to drag the rectangle and I'm just going to draw a quick rectangle around the main part of the window and I'm going to pray. And sure enough, it selected the whole window. So guess what? We got lucky. More often than not, you're going to get lucky. Adobe's AI is really, really good. Now, what do I want to do? I want to play with the saturation a little bit. I want to warm up the color a little bit because I want to kind of minimize the blues. I definitely want to see as much detail as I can here, but that's not really working. And so I want you to remember that you've got 3 sets of texture refining tools to play with. So you've got texture and clarity and this thing called dehaze, which was developed for fog and cloudy mornings and rain and to bring that back. But in a case like this, look what happens when we use the dehaze tool. Look how well it works. So I want you to start playing around with some of the tools and thinking of them. It's like using a hammer to open a drawer. Sometimes that works really effectively. So, there are multiple ways to do everything. And I find dehaze is a surprising tool for bringing back detail, but it has its drawbacks. So invariably, it adds a little too much saturation to an image. So you may need to reduce the saturation if you're playing with dehaze, and you'll learn that. You'll see again, play pendulum and see what happens. So you can also increase the amount of haze, meaning negative haze. You can make things cloudier, hazier. We don't want to do that. If I go too much to one extreme, you see it starts getting darker and more saturated. We don't want to go that far, but this may mean that I may want to open up the shadows a little bit. And I definitely want to take the saturation down. And I definitely want to see what I can do with the color. Now, in warming it up a little bit, I'm bringing out some nice warm tones here, and that's playing nicely with the blues, the purples down here. And so the last thing I want to do is, I'm going to take my object tool and I'm going to go down and I'm going to play with the window underneath. And then I kind of think I'm going to be done. So hopefully I get the same quick mask that I got up above. Sure enough, I did. And I'm going to push the saturation. I'm going to open up the shadow. So what I'm looking at is I want the same warm tones that I got above. I don't need to play with dehaze, so I'm going to use texture instead to bring out the detail in the wood casements. But I really want to see what I can do to bring more color into the shades. So that's my goal. So I'm going to open up my shadow detail. And I may want to see if I can maybe push my saturation a little bit, and then even play with the hue a little bit. And no, that's mucking with the wood, so I'm not going to do that. If I wanted to spend a little bit more time, I might select each of the panes of glass where the red wooden shades are, and then play with those to make them even more red, but I think I'm going to be done. So there's that. So again, let's look at a before and an after. And again, just a couple of minutes, right? So once you have a vision and you know what you want to do, there we go. Could I go further? Absolutely. Um, let's do what should
Alan.
we, yeah.
So we had a question that I think fits in nicely with what you're just doing with the texture and the dehaze. Somebody wanted to know if you could explain briefly what's the difference between clarity and texture.
Okay, so I want you to picture a tree after all the leaves have fallen out. The smallest branches, the little tiny twigs at the very end of the limbs, that's texture. And the middle size branches is clarity. So it's the finest detail is texture. The medium to mid-tone amount of detail is clarity. And it's all an algorithm. It's how much edge detail, black to white, we're recognizing. So in texture, we're looking at literally a pixel of white and a pixel of black, and we're sharpening that. In clarity, we're looking at 2 to 5 pixels or more, depending on what we select, and it's where we're looking at it. So texture is overall, but mainly in the midtones. Clarity is kind of overall. It's the equivalent of saturation versus vibrance. Dehaze is in areas that are primarily white that have detail. So it would be up in this area of the histogram where it's recovering detail in the brightest areas. Is that clear for everybody? It's all math,
I like when you use the dehaze on that window. It
right?
was almost like a polarizer. Like it
Yeah,
took some of the glare off of there. And I thought, I don't think I've used it in that way on glass before. I mean, obviously water, but not glass. And that was pretty cool.
right? They just play. Okay, how much time we got? We have at least what, another 45 minutes, an hour of
Yeah.
processing? Because we're all decided we're gonna do a marathon tonight, right, guys? We're gonna go till, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning, right?
Gonna
And
do
I'm on
it.
East Coast time, so I'm like in for it. You good? Okay. Let's do a more painterly image. Huh. Okay. Here's where I get super vulnerable. You want to see what this started out as? God, God. Oh, hang on. I'm making a virtual copy because I invariably what I do is I like take an original and then I start mucking with it and I can't get back to the original. And then it's like, what did I do? So I have to remember to do that. Thank you for being understanding. Okay. That was the original image. Remember, it's a raw image, right? After, before. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to crop it because we got to get rid of all the stuff. And then we're going to look at it and we're going to decide what do we want to do. We've got a lot of, I mean, I really should have, because there's a lot of stuff that is going to distract me. This is a very old baking dish that I use all the time. I have clients who demand it and it's like literally falling apart. It's my $1 million baking dish because I think at this point it's earned me that much money over all the years of shooting. But it's like, people, if you have good baking dishes, I will buy them from you. I will trade you prints for baking dishes because I can't recreate them anymore. So there's a lot of retouching that happens. Again, within Lightroom's newest iterations, you've got generative AI. If you're doing a major change, use it. If you're just like retouching a spot, you should turn it off because it's time consuming. But if you want the best possible change, you're going to make an area, a brush stroke slightly larger than the mark that you're trying to get rid of, and it's going to cycle through. Now I'm on a super fast Macintosh, and you see it takes a couple of seconds. The more of these I do at once, right? So I'm looking at everything that is drawing my eye, and I haven't even made any changes, but I just want to get rid of it and blah, blah, blah. And like there are times if this were for a client and I ended up redoing this for a client where I spent, I think, 3 hours just retouching the stupid baking dish to make it perfect because it was going to become a cover of a cookbook and like, ugh. So like maddening. But for right now, it's just let's make a Renaissance painting out of this. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so we did enough retouching. Now let's close this, go back to our basic panel, and oh my God, where should we start? Let's look at that. No, that's way too dark. Let's look at something like that. No, that's not going to work. So like the first thing is just know what your profiles are. And if you can't find one, just go back to neutral and or I don't know, trust your camera profiles. Yeah, maybe that's good. And sometimes I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go back here and look, I actually used Vivid, which I dismissed. So like sometimes hmm, what do I know? Okay, so we're going to go back here. And as I'm looking at this image, now we have to, I don't want to get theoretical with you, but I definitely want to look at my histogram and I've got a lot of room. I always shoot where I can recover shadows, but I don't like seeing images that are too bright because something about my brain, and this is how my brain works, if it's too bright, I can't look at it and see it for what's possible. I need to shoot a darker image. So even when I'm correcting it and sort of optimizing the histogram, maximizing it, when I look at it like this, it bothers me. So I think that's where maybe going back to whoever asked about my look, it may be that I just skew darker and things emerge from shadows a little bit, but who knows? It also could be that I'm a little bit colorblind, which is a secret that I only tell a few thousand people every year. It's true, I am color deficient. Colorblind is a misnomer. Um, so let's look at something like this as a basic correction. And again, I'm just going to keep, nope, so here's it reset. And here's what we did just with the basic panel. And right, so it's okay, but it has no life. It's just a little bit more colorful. So what do we want to do? How do we make it a little bit more interesting? What when you look at this, do you want to have happen? So I want to make it a little bit more painterly. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means I maybe want to exaggerate the amount of detail. I want to see more detail than you normally would in a photograph because the way our eyes see and our brains see, we're not like we're not making it hyper realistic, but maybe I want to see that. So I'm going to dial up my texture a little bit higher. And I think I'm going to take my clarity. I'm going to pendulum my clarity a little bit. I'm going to bring it up just a teeny bit. And I'm going to look at reducing. I'm not going to do anything with my vibrance or saturation because I think it looks pretty good overall, but I'm definitely going to want to make some local changes. So uh, as I look here and here, am I seeing enough color overall? Now I maybe want to make some kind of creative changes. So I'm going to start looking at my white balance, not for accuracy, but just to experiment and see where I might want to go with things. Okay, so I'm not looking at it for anything other than, do I want to introduce blue into the shadows, or do I want to warm it up a little bit or something? I haven't done any kind of creative adjustments yet, nor have I done any white balance adjustments yet. I could easily click on auto and we'll see what it suggests to me. And it made a slight shift, so it warmed it up a teeny bit. And maybe that's good. So now I've got kind of an idea that I want to play with my blues a little bit. So I'm going to come down here and I keep my color mixer open because rather than looking at one at a time, I am always bouncing back and forth, making a decision. Do I want to play with the hue and then maybe adjusting the saturation and then playing with the luminance rather than doing just a hue adjustment and then going back and forth. I do it all at once and I want to be able to bounce. So I'm going to look at maybe taking my blues up a little bit, but then I want to maybe up the luminance of the blues. So again, I'm just look at what happens when I just introduce a lot of brightness. I'm making my blue channel brighter overall, right? It starts getting a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more jewel-like, a little bit more painterly in Alan's words. So I'm doing that. I want to play with the red in the figs a little bit, and I'm not sure if I want to do that overall or if I just want to do that on a very local level. So I'm going to come in here and I want to make sure that it's really red. So I'm choosing the selection tool and it's both red and orange. And I'm looking at the saturation and, I do want to up the saturation, so I'm going to do that. But now I also want to brighten the centers. So I'm going to make a little bit of a luminance change there. And I'm not loving the green in the figs. Again, I think it may be because of my color deficiency. I don't really see greens all that well. Me in a rose garden is a total disappointment. So I just end up always reducing the saturation of my greens just because it's more pleasing to my brain. And to compensate, I usually take my yellows up a little bit. I don't know what you're seeing, but to me, it's a little bit more pleasing. And now, I think I'm kind of done with global changes. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start making some local decisions. So with let's see, I'm going to just use my brush because I'm going to start working quickly just in the interest of time. I'm going to choose the brush, and I'm quickly going to brush over the centers of my cut figs. And you'll see my flow is down here. I rarely work unless I know that I'm making a big sweeping change. I'm always starting at like 30 to 50, and then I can always paint in more. But if I start at 100%, I just don't like working that way. And now I'm going to look at opening up a little bit of exposure because I want them overall a little bit brighter, and I want to add some texture in there. Okay. So are you seeing what's starting to happen? Maybe. And now let's come down, and now let's add where the painterly stuff comes in is with curves. Now curves are scary to you all, right? Or, yeah, I can't see. Is everyone nodding their head or just like half of you? Curves are kind of scary. No? Who loves curves? Brian loves curves. Good man. All right. There's like 5 people over on the side that I can see. Uh, Curves are kind of easy once you get the hang of it. You got your 3 color channels. You've got a luminosity channel in black. And then over here, this parametric curve, it's like training wheels. This is the one you should avoid unless you're an absolute beginner, in which case when you click on that, you don't even have to touch the curve because it gives you sliders underneath. None of the others give you sliders, but this one does. And so it's like showing you that, okay, I'm playing with the highlights. So look at the whites of the cut figs, and you'll see I'm reducing the highlights, going all the way down. That's really bad. Or I'm bringing them all the way up. I'm brightening them a little bit. I'm doing the same thing to the lights, right? And you see how you're able to make these changes. Now, the interesting thing with the parametric curve versus the regular luminance curve, which is just affecting the gray values in your image, is that they work on a different algorithm. So even though these are both luminance-based changes, they affect pixels differently. So here's a interesting hack. Use them both because they work differently. So for instance, if I want to do an effect which is crushing the blacks, I'm literally just dropping points on the curve, and I'm going to take, these are the blackest parts of my image, the whitest parts of my image is up here. If I want to take the blacks and say I don't want anything to be black in my image, I want to crush them to grays. Look at what starts happening. You see the effect? Right? I'm crushing the blacks. No more blacks. They're gone. So it starts getting kind of velvety. So this, for me, becomes very much a painterly effect, just using a curve. Okay? Lots of detail, less detail. Lots, less. Do you like one more than the other? Doesn't matter. It's for you to play with, and now you have this as a tool to experiment with. And the more you start playing, the more you're going to see where it makes sense in your specific images. So I'm not gonna do a lot of crushing, but I'm gonna do it enough where I've got no blacks in my image. And then I'm gonna come over here to my blue channel, right? So we've got blue and orange. Those are the complementary colors. And if I want to take the darkest tones within the blue channel and make them a little bit more blue, cool down the shadows, I can do that. I can also warm the shadows by taking and dragging toward the other. Cool, warm. This is the same as doing a warm, cool, a blue, yellow split tone in the color grading tool. This is just another tool to do that. So if I want to, remember I was looking at, maybe having it be a little bit cooler in the shadows. I might just bring it up and you'll notice I'm at 0. Look at the input and the output. And I'm coming up to like 4. So you don't have to make a sweeping move. Otherwise it becomes very ugly. But sometimes just a point or two is incredible and really does a lot. Now, the last thing I may do, and now as I'm looking at this, I'm making decisions. In crushing the blacks, I lost a little bit of contrast. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to like open up my whites a little bit. And I think because I'm not answering to a client, I don't have a specific proportion in mind. I'm going to play with, the proportion of the images a little bit. I'm going to, sort of make sure I lead your eye. And now lastly, I'm going to come down here and know that the calibration tool was originally designed because each of our cameras and the sensors in our cameras interpreted the pixels a little bit differently. So Nikon had a magenta shift, and Canon had a blue shift, and Fuji had a green shift, and so on. And so this was Adobe's way of letting you correct for your camera. But for some of us, it became a little bit of a creative tool. So those of you who have taken classes with me know that I love taking the blue channel and the saturation and pushing it like somewhere between 5 and 10 points, and it just makes every image better. So you could just see that it just adds a little bit of, I don't know what, just a little bit of oomph. So there's that as a trick that you could just use as you see fit. Another thing I love to do, again, because my brain seems to like more cool shadows, it also likes magenta shadows. So I'll always push my shadow detail in the calibration a couple of points. So now, did I go as far as the other image? Let's compare. No, but it's another day and my mood's different. And if I did this on 10 consecutive days, I'd probably have 10 consecutive images. So there's that. Any questions on this? Now we're gonna go have some fun with like playing with textures and stuff. I'm gonna show you some like fun things that are gonna blow your mind and are so easy to do that you're just gonna want to hug me. No questions?
There's a couple of questions about the profiles. So Deborah says, does Alan create a lot of his own profiles? And Val
Yes.
wanted to know camera ASTIA/soft. Is this one of Alan's profiles?
Okay. So the camera Astia. So again, I shoot Fuji. You all have a camera, and each of those cameras has profiles that Adobe recognizes from your camera. And so Canon's profiles are like Canon landscape, Canon portrait, Canon whatever, and every name is different. Fuji's profiles are just really odd. So Astia and Eternia and Provia and Velvia, right? So that's Fuji's naming convention. Nikon's are Nikons, and we all have different ones. I I make my own profiles, and I don't want this to be a commercial for color management, but it does, let me show you. So have you all seen a color target? One of these, right? So I am a bit of a color perfectionist, color geek, and because I am insecure about color, when I work with clients, I need to make sure that the colors that I am delivering are exactly scientifically as dead on as they need to be. So I use a reference target, and this allows me to, so my monitors, every monitor that I edit on, my laptop, my two desktop monitors, my studio monitor, everyone is profiled every 2 weeks. Every time I go and shoot for an important client or for an important shoot of mine, it could be personal, I take this with me, and they come in different sizes. I have tiny ones for my super macro, but this passport is, and I take a reference shot based on the camera and the lens that I'm shooting with. And if I change lenses, I take another reference shot. And if the weather changes, I take another shot. And that allows me to create a custom profile. So you'll see for this image, I created a custom profile that I titled based on this. And so then when I went to create the final image, I knew that the starting point of that image was perfect. And I could show the client, here's my starting point. Now, where do you want to go? And they said, wherever you want to go. That's my kind of client. So then we played and we did a few iterations, and this is what we ended up with. But the starting point was perfect. For those of you who are flower photographers, did you ever shoot a flower and then you get back and maybe you're editing a couple of weeks later and you don't remember what color it was? Like, was it purple? Was it orange? Like here's here's a flower. What color was it? I didn't bring a target. I could make it any color in the rainbow. I don't have a clue. And God help me, if this was for a client, how would I know what the actual color was? And if I sent them the wrong color, they would say, that's not what color my flowers were. If I was shooting for a flower farmer, which I do, oh my God. So I better have had my passport with me on those important shoots, because I need to know that what I'm delivering is absolutely accurate. So let's go back to the profiles. So you can make your own profiles and you can know exactly, depending on what you're shooting. Now, my guess is most of you don't need to be that fanatic, but I don't know. If you want to stand out from all the people in your club, if you're entering a show or you're working with, I don't know, anybody shoot a wedding? Anybody shoot with a bride who is crazed about the color of her bridesmaids' dresses? You don't want to disappoint that person. So how easy is it to hold up a target? And then if nothing else, do you ever stress about white balance? With one of these targets, you just click on this square, and you're instantly white balanced, like in a second. And it's perfect, like non-negotiable perfect. So commercial over. Let's play with uh some stuff. So I don't know about you, but I got very bored with plain photography a while ago, and I like to wander through museums, and I happened on the Renaissance Portrait Show at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I got so fascinated, not by the portraits, but by the canvases. You know, these are 400 and 500-year-old canvases, and they were so beautifully aged, and the textures around the edges and the layers of paint and color. And and I was just absolutely fascinated by it. And so I decided I would recreate it. So let's see. So, and I did probably 20 of them. And then, I got lucky and one of my clients said, "Hey, we have this new concept. Do you have any ideas?" And I did, and I showed them a few of them. And then 100 images later, it was wonderful. But what I'm going to show you is how I do this. And it usually starts with me taking images of birds. I like birds. They're a little bit more cooperative than people, and they're equally bizarre, and they don't talk back, although I do like talking to people, but I like, talking to birds and telling them. My opening line is, "Do you really taste like chicken?" And just seeing how they react, and it goes from there. Um, so let's start here, and let's start here. And I'm just going to open a few textures, and I'm going to go up into Photoshop. So I chose a bird and a texture and another texture. There's my baking pan, by the way. I had to photograph it so I would just always remember it once it finally dies. Um, and I'm going edit in Photoshop. If I were doing a single image, that's what I would choose. But I want to open these images as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so I'm going all the way to the bottom. And it's going to take a couple of seconds. And while that's happening, I'm going to come here in Bridge, because I literally have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of textures that I've collected and shot and whatever. Um, and that's that. So, and sometimes weird things happen. And in this case, the bird came in upside down, and it doesn't matter. So let's turn him upside around, and okay. So we have the bird here, and can you see my screen well enough? And we've got the birds on top, and we've got this book that I shot a while ago and on a much smaller camera. So we're just going to resize that. And because I don't really care about, distorting it, I can just scale it to fill the frame. And then we've got the baking dish, and we'll put that on top, and we're going to shut that off. And so now what I'm going to do, so I've got the bird, and let's make sure that we're actually filling the frame with the bird, because we don't want the white edges showing. So this is an additive process. And I'm going to show you a different one, which is kind of a totally opposite. This is the one that on a rainy or wintry day, weekend, where you have nothing to do and there's nothing on TV and all your friends are gone, and you just need to like put good music on and veg out. This is something to play with. Normally, I work with a Wacom tablet because I grew up drawing and painting and all of that. So you put your main subject on the ground. It can be a landscape, it can be flowers, it can be whatever you want, and then go find yourself some textures. So we're going to start with this one. And we're going to make sure that we're in our direct selection tool in Photoshop. Okay. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift and plus. on this layer. And what's going to happen is we're going to cycle through all of the overlay modes. And I want you to start looking and seeing how the top layer, this old leather journal, is interacting with the layer beneath it. Okay, and at some point, some of them are really bad. Just to give you a quick lesson in these, if you haven't played with them, you have a whole bunch of overlay modes right up here. It's in your layer blending menu. And you'll see that they're divided by section. You've got normal and dissolve. Normal is the layer as it is. And then you've got darkening layers. And each of these is a different mathematical algorithm for how the pixels of the layer interact with the pixels beneath it. And it's cumulative. So when I get to the next layer, it's how it interacts with all of the layers underneath it. And you can work with it so you set it only so it interacts with the one layer, but we're not going to get into that layer of detail. That's a whole nother class. But so you've got darkening effects, lightening effects, contrast effects. So overlay does a combination of darkening and lightening, as does soft light and hard light. You've got difference, which takes the opposite, and then you've got very specific where it is taking the hue from the layer that you're on and the way it interacts with the layer below, or just the saturation. So again, we're going to go back, and I think I'm going to end up with probably maybe here, okay, just arbitrarily. And I need you to see past this immediate effect, because now we're going to lighten it a little bit to where it starts getting a little bit interesting. But more importantly, we're going to mask it. And so I'm going to come down here, and I've got two ways to mask it. I can either get rid of it entirely by holding down the Option or Alt key, and now I've created a mask of that layer that hides everything. Or I can just click on the mask without any extra key, and I'm revealing everything. Now, depending on what I choose, I'm now going to paint away things or paint in things. You follow? So if I reveal everything to begin, now I'm going to say, you know what? I want to reveal more of the bird. And so I'm going to choose, because I'm starting with a white mask, I'm going to pick a brush, and I'm going to choose black. And now I'm going to just adjust the size and the feather, right? I don't want a solid brush because I'm going to see the edges. I want a maximum feather. And depending on where I'm painting, and here I want to introduce you to the two options. You've got opacity and flow. Opacity is bad, flow is good. Always use flow. It's like when you are drawing with a pencil and you're using a very light pencil line, and then you can draw over it again, and it's additive. So I'll show you what I mean. So a 2% flow, I make a brush stroke, and you see a very little, and it's going to be it's going to take a little bit before you start seeing the reveal happening. Okay? And so that's why I say this is like relaxing, therapeutic, and you're painting away the areas. And the bigger the brush, the softer the effect. And so now I'm just, I'm deciding where I want the texture. And this is the first of a lot of layers. Okay, so you see, now if I want to show you, here is before, after. So you see where I'm painting things away. Here's actually what I've painted already. So again, black is hiding the texture. and I will just keep going. And, remember, I'm trying to create a painting. I'm trying to integrate the bird into this thing. So I want the texture to overlap. I want it to feel painterly. And I don't have to stay with the opacity that I chose. I can go lighter, I can go darker, I can do whatever I want. But now I've got a first layer. And so let's stay there. And now I'm going to turn on the next layer. And I'm going to do the same effect. I'm going to go back to the direct selection tool. Don't make a mistake. You're going to be bouncing back and forth between the brush tool and the direct selection tool. If you forget to switch back and you switch to your next texture, and by the way, if I wanted to, I can go into Bridge for those of you that know Bridge, and I can go and I can, let's find another, where do I want to be? Let's do here, and so we'll open, I just opened another texture. I don't need to be in Camera Raw. I'm already started. I'm done. Is it going to open? Did I screw up? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Let's come here. Okay. So now I opened a layer out of Bridge. It opened in Photoshop. All I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it into my document. And again, a very old file. I'm just going to drag it on top. I'm going to size it. I think I want to show you that next. So now we're going to click on that, shift, and I'm going to cycle through the blend modes. And again, I'm just watching and seeing where the interaction becomes a little bit interesting. And so, so somewhere around here, maybe. What just happened? There we go. Or maybe here. So depending on the color, the trial and error is really how the texture you've found or shot is going to interact with the textures and the image you've created. It's always trial and error. You can't predict it. So whether I did this layer or this one, let's see how this one goes. You're going to find yourself, if you start playing around with this, playing around, that becomes a little bit more interesting to me. So what I'm looking at is like, look at what's happening up here in this corner and the schmutz, it's a technical term, that's going on down here, and a little bit of the blue. So I'm going to keep that right there. And now I'm going to, instead of painting in, I'm going to hide this whole layer. So I held down the Option or Alt key. So I've got a hidden mask. I've hidden that whole texture. So I'm going to go back into my brush and I'm going to, with white, I'm going to start painting in. And you're going to see some of that second texture start interacting with the new one. And this is how you build and play. And if you don't like it, you can always, if you paint it in too much, you can go back. And now, let's see, is there another? I think I did this, and I've got one more texture here that I want to borrow. So here's a texture. We're going to bring that over here. So here's a stone wall with a lot of cracks, right? So I'm going to make this the final layer. Most of these paintings will have 20 or 30 layers. I'm gonna, again, go in and I'm gonna decide where I want to be, probably around here, and I'm going to reduce the texture, and I don't want the cracks throughout. I may want just a few cracks here and here and here, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to go away. I can't get to it. There we go. And with the brush, come in and just start painting away. And you get the idea, right? Any questions on this technique? And if I weren't moving very quickly, it would be incredibly relaxing and just fascinating as a like it's tactile and it's fun and you get to shoot your own textures. So now you're going to find yourself on a boring weekend with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, like shooting concrete walls and dumpsters that are rusty and all the things that I end up shooting. And then you're gonna, it works on everything. So this is the additive process. And again, let's go back to like what it kind of looks like. So just so much fun and just it brings me back to when I was actually an artist, because I'm literally painting and using a stylus, and it's a little bit less messy and I don't smell like turpentine and whatever. Now, let's go to a slightly different approach. And let me go here and here.
We did have a question here, Alan. Kanan wanted to know, with all of the hundreds of backgrounds that you have, how do you figure out which one is going to interact with the other one and the image? And, how do you pick from the endless combinations?
Patience, absolute patience. There's no good answer. I can tell you that when you look at a given texture, there is, first you start with your subject and you see, all right, there's a direction to where the subject is gazing, to where the tree or the flower, whatever the pose is and whatever the main layout is. And then you're looking to balance that, right? So it's yin and yang. And so the texture may have more of a weight on one side, which would balance your main subject, or it just may be that you're looking at a complementary color palette. So if your image is cool, you may want a warm texture, or you may want a varied range of colors. So for me, when I look at go, I just lost it. Where did they go here? When I look at, what I'm drawn to, it's the shapes in walls and where I can put things, right? So sometimes I'll see a wall with a strong composition, and then I'll go look for a subject to work around that. And sometimes I'll find the opposite, because you can also take this and you can rotate it. So like, but it's a ton of trial and error, and that's where the relaxation comes in, right? That's where you just have to be patient and zen, and it's no different than being out and about and not rushing and being mindful and just looking and then finding and being grateful that you found something. And I don't mean it to sound really, esoteric. I just, it quiets my brain. I believe it will quiet yours. And now let's throw this away. Don't save. Okay. Can I show you a different effect?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let me just want to close things out so my computer doesn't crash. So here's what I did. I started with a texture. Actually, I started with a different texture. And I started with the third texture. That's the one I was just showing you. And okay, so I have that open. And now let me go, we don't need this anymore. Let me go back into Lightroom and find a flower or something. Okay. Let's give it a second to open up. So now, sometimes as patient as I want to be, I'm just not. And I need instant gratification. And there were a lot of people who were doing texture blending of that sort, although not with 20 and 30 and 40 layers like I was doing. It's just like, let's take a texture and let's put it on top and blah, blah, blah. And so I wanted to challenge myself to do something that nobody was doing. And I think I found it. And so I like to share because then it's going to force me to do something else. And so this technique is maybe a year or two old, but it starts with the texture on the bottom. And I'm going to take an image. And again, I'm just going to drag it on top of the texture. And invariably, this was shot on a medium format camera, so it's enormous. And I'm just going to size it to fit and not be so precise. And so now I'm deciding, now I'm starting with the texture on the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to hide my main image. Sorry, it's too big. So I'm going to hide that. I'm going to go in the background layer and I'm going to go to select color range. And now color range, anybody played with color range before? Anybody? Yeah. Okay, a little bit. Way to go, Brian. I can't see anybody else. I'm going to turn my camera off again because I'm still hidden. Stop video. Start video. Here I am. So it lets you choose an area and you can choose either, you can, give you an eyedropper and you can click in the image, boom. And where you click, it is selecting pixels and a range of pixels to either side of it. And they call it fuzziness, which is the weirdest thing in the world. So if I choose a fuzziness of 37, if I click here, and it doesn't tell you where here is other than it's where my cursor is, 37 pixels on either side, light or dark, are being selected. And this is what it's going to look like. And so now, do I like that? And it's going to make a selection. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I want to kind of be, let's start at, I don't know, maybe here. Okay. And when I click OK, it's going to make a selection. Now, this isn't accurate. This is about 50% because Adobe can only show you so much. And now I'm going to go to the layer that I want to apply the mask to. So I've made it active. Here it is. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on the mask with the selection active. Wait, I did it on the wrong layer. Screwed up. Boom, and I should make it big. And there you go. So there's the effect at that fuzziness. Now, again, it's a little bit trial and error. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to get rid of this mask. I'm going to get rid of this because turn it off again. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to select color range. and I'm gonna up it. And I think I'm gonna go to here. And now I'm gonna click OK. So now I'm selecting more of the lighter part of the image by upping the fuzziness and selecting there. And I'm gonna go to that second layer. I'm gonna make it active and I'm gonna mask it. And now I feel a little bit better about that. And so now I can reduce the opacity a little bit if I want to, or I can leave it at 100%. And what I've done is I've used the background color and the range of colors to create a mask to integrate the subject, in this case, the flowers, and the texture into a stupid, simple image. For me, this is this whole notion of like wabi-sabi and imperfection. And as I look in the mirror, I've told this to people who I know and love. The more I age, the more I am trying desperately to find beauty in the aging process, like appreciating my own dents and wrinkles and what have you. And so I am finding beauty in broken walls and dented sidewalks and all of that. And it's one of those things that I just do every day to tell myself that no matter how old I get, I am still, you know, more attractive than the mirror is talking me into. And so this is one of those exercises. Now, I did other versions, and here's that, or maybe what did I do here? So I'm going to get rid of all of these and I'm going to do a different one for you. Just screw it. Don't save, because I want this to be totally as spontaneous as humanly possible for you. What it ends up being when you play is this is the very first one I did. I had this wonderful rusty, this is an old dumpster behind my building here in New York. And it was absolutely beautiful. This is my dumpster. Immortalized forever, just like my baking sheets and whatever, and a mum. And this was the first of these kinds of images that I did. And then I have a super secret old train yard with rusty trains. And I went to the other extreme and I just went super saturated. And I just started doing these images. And in some cases, it's multiple images. So let me open this and I'll deconstruct it for you, because this is like such an easy thing to do. And it's almost limitless in how you can play with it. And again, it just makes me appreciate growing old and how pretty you can be when you grow old. Right? So Ellen, you can relate, right? Maybe. Okay. Um, I'm sorry, you're the only one I can see right now besides Brian, and I don't want to pick on him. And you know, Angel's way younger, so but then so are you, Ellen. So I don't know who to pick on. I got nobody. It's just me. It's just me up here, and nobody's talking to me. So, how are we doing on time, Angel? We good?
We're looking good. Maybe after this one, we'll shift to the image reviews.
Okay. Okay.
I'm thinking we're going to need like a whole class just on textures.
Okay.
This is amazing.
So here's the texture, and here's the image, one of my favorite images. And is it upside down? It is upside down. Why is it upside down? It doesn't matter. So, and masked. And then here is a black and white layer masked to the opposite, to the gray area, right? So I masked to the browns for this. You can see the white of the mask reveals. Then I masked to the blues or the grays here. And then if you really want to play, you know, you can desaturate areas or you can saturate areas. So I just added some layer masks. And for me, it's just so fun and so quick because this whole select color range, it takes 2 seconds. And, it's like banging your head against the beautiful wall and you just get all these fun things. So that's that. Um, okay. So there are so many
Okay,
things.
I'm in love with that photo.
Thank you.
I love the way it looks like something is peeling away and then you can see something underneath. That's awesome.
Right. And like, so, and here's that same texture. And I was just playing around, two different images, right? And so like it's just fun for the feeble-minded, which is absolutely me in a nutshell. This is so so much to do. And it works on everything, still lives or and it works with wood and any kind of texture, old rusty things. And I can't tell you how clients, it's like certain things seem to be in vogue, like ICM for those of you who are, in garden and like soft focus and iPhone, swirly things. I can't tell you how many of my like hotel and real estate and corporate office park clients are loving like walls of this, probably because it's a little bit industrial and kind of just grungy, but then it's got aspects of pretty and color, and it can be anything. So it's, for those of you who want to monetize your work, this is kind of a layup. And like I said, I'm happy to share. So go for it. Show me what you can do. All right, what's next? And I could do more.
Okay, so let's go
I've got
ahead.
landscapes. I've got a landscape that I was going to do, but I don't think I can
Do a
do.
landscape. I cannot resist.
I don't think I could do this quickly. Let me see if I have a quicker landscape to do. Hang on. I know I had one. Okay. One of my favorite beaches out here. What do we want to do with this? All right. Should we make this more dramatic? What do you want to see? So like, let's do this like improv. Like, tell me what you want. And don't just
You guys,
scream black and white because that's too easy.
you guys can unmute yourselves. Okay,
Something,
we got one here.
something
Somebody said
moody.
drama.
How about moody?
Moody. Um, like a petulant child being moody.
Yeah.
Or, uh, okay. All right, so let's do this. So we got a sky. We're going to select it. And here's an example. Okay, so you see there's the sky. And if I want to go really moody, see, I don't want to. See, here's the problem. When you select the sky, skies are never universal. I'd rather you think about a gradient,
Hmm.
right? Because now if you want to add a little bit more contrast, or you want to darken it because the sun's going down, right? It's more natural. Like think about a sunset. Like it gets darker at the top and it's the light where the sun's uh
Hmm.
going down. And if we want to add maybe a little bit more color at the top, let's see where it starts getting interesting. So we can go here. And do we want to warm it up? Yeah, there we go. So you see what's happening with the sky. So it's one of those late summer, almost fall skies. And we definitely want more contrast, not less contrast. So we'll do that. And now let's go to, no, do we want some whites? No, we don't want whites here. But what I think we may want to do is we're going to come in with a bit of a brush. And I think we want, those like low hanging clouds down here. So let's see what we can do. Now this might be something, it's going to either be an epic fail or it's really going to work. Or it's going to take a lot of time to like get the selection right. But like let's see if we can really like take these up a little bit. Yeah, it's not really gonna work. But anyway, and then we do want to go to the reverse. So now here we are. Let's see, who wants to join me right here? And we're going to watch the sunset, and we can definitely like draw your eye in. And I'm going to cool it down a little bit over here. And I don't know, that's where I might go. And then overall, I'm going to get out of masks. And see, this is more fun. Like this whole improv is just delightful to me. And I'm going to take the exposure down. Now, here's a whole other technique to play with. And I didn't even touch on it, but we could do this for hours. Take your exposure way down and then paint in. So like now my exposure is, I mean, I'm almost a full stop underexposed. Like, why is he doing that? But now I can come in with my whites and I can open it up. And now like I'm adding a little bit more drama. And if I really wanted to, I don't know that it's going to work, but let's see if a very skinny gradient right here, might give me a hint of something. I don't know. Yeah, no, don't like that. But anyway, so who wanted Moody? Did I satisfy you?
Gorgeous sky. Thank you.
Okay, Joan, my pleasure. Anything for you, babe. Okay.
Very cool. Okay, so there's a lot of love for you here in the chat. Let's see if there's any questions.
Yeah, ask me questions, guys. I have nowhere to go tonight, so I'm here for the next 16, 17 hours. What do you need? And I've had lots of coffee and it's all good.
All right, you guys can unmute if you want to ask questions.
You've got a lot of textures there, Alan. How do you categorize them? Because you obviously have yours categorized into, concrete or steel or paint or dumpsters or whatever. Do you have a special way of doing it? I've got probably a couple of hundred, but nothing like what you've got.
Are you organizing your life in Lightroom or are you using something else?
Lightroom, and I have them textured by things like metallic and stone and things like that.
So I use in my library, I am organized by date, and every date has, the date, and like it'll say textures and it'll say rail yard or whatever. So I know that there's that. Then I will go in and I will create a custom collection based on whatever it is I'm doing. So and that's what I do. At some point, if I am putting them aside, I have a couple of 72 terabyte RAIDs sitting right over here because I've got such a vast collection. I literally just hit 1 million images, and it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, throw some shit out, and right, it's just too much. But so now it's okay, I've got concrete from whatever, and I've got corrugated, and I've got woods, and I've got whatever, and they're there for who knows what, mainly for stock or for client projects. Should someone come in and say, do you have X, Y, and Z? And at least I have a starting point. But I waste a lot of hours searching through old archives. So I don't think I've got it nailed. I need a library.
This stuff is just fantastic. I've tried to do some of this, but I mean, I'd be in grade 1 while you were at university. It's just fantastic. I'm rarely lost for words, and I'm not lost for words now. But I just think it's wonderful. I'm so sorry I had to miss the first half, but it was essential.
You know what, Marnie? We can do this again, and as long as you
Oh,
talk
yes, please.
that beautiful accent,
Oh, thank you. Most people don't like Australian accents.
Why
Oh,
not?
I love them.
Why not?
They're
Oh, you
losing.
do, Angel. I know that.
I love it.
Is there any way that, you have a website, Alan? Do we get that at the end, Angel?
I might be on the email, but I can include it when I send the recording.
Oh, yes, please, because I'd like to look at Alan's website. And he said something about
God, it's
courses.
a junkyard. It's like
You
it's
have
a-
workshops?
it's
You
it's
have
a-
workshops and yeah.
I do all sorts of things, and yes.
Well, now you got two Aussies. You're interested in Val too. No, if you do that, that would be fantastic. Mind you, we can't go to them. They have to be online.
Well, I think we should have Alan back for some sort of texture workshop. So if
Oh,
you guys
absolutely,
send me an
absolutely.
email, put your vote in.
Should I
Yeah.
stop sharing?
Yep.
April?
Is this recording going to be available?
Yes, so I send out the recordings within 48 hours of the end of the event. So you'll probably get it tomorrow morning, but if it takes a while to process, it might be the following morning.
Okay.
Alan, this is Deborah. This is Deborah. A question. So when you're working on color grading and mixing colors, changing colors, do you find that Lightroom versus Photoshop, there are certain times you go automatically to one rather than the other? And how do you know? I sometimes try to do the same image in both, and I think I get myself a little lost.
If I'm being totally honest, I'm a bit of a lazy sack of shit when I'm not working for fun.
Ellen.
That's a technical term too.
I
Yes.
like that.
And so I find that I've been working with Photoshop since before it was Photoshop. I was fortunate to be a beta tester for this company called Adobe before they launched Photoshop. So I know too much, and I find Lightroom just does everything I need it to a point, and
Yeah, me too.
when I need to go to Photoshop, I will. And it's just quicker for me. It's quicker, and it forces me to not get too deep into that rabbit hole of retouching like I used to be. So
Hmm.
that's my reason. I could spend 8 hours on an image in Photoshop, and I have friends who do, and they do gorgeous, gorgeous work with, luminosity masks and, the zone system. And it's like 20 hours later, they're still not done. And it's like, I could have done that in a half hour. What are you guys wasting your time for? It's like, well, and of course there are incredible subtleties that I am just glossing over. So it's whatever works for you and whatever brings you joy. There is no right or wrong answer. The algorithms are different enough in how they work. So
Yeah.
curves in Photoshop and curves in Lightroom, you'd think they would be identical, but I've literally on my stupid expensive XDR monitor have had two identical files open, and the same exact curve gives me a different enough result where it makes me shake my head. So whatever you are comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's what happens is that I do a lot of work in Lightroom and then I decide there's something structural I really need to change in a flower or a still life or something. So I go into Photoshop and I
Yeah.
feel like then I'm working with different base. Something different has happened to the image.
You know what I don't like the fact that the color mixer in Lightroom is 7 colors, right? It's the 7 red, orange, yellow, green, right? Turquoise in Photoshop colors. Why? Just make it consistent, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to weigh in. I'm just, it's become my thing. By the way, I work in this program called Capture One because some clients ask me to, because when we're shooting in studio, invariably with models or for fashion or very color critical food, like if we're doing a cookbook or a magazine cover for Food and Wine or Saveur, and they're neurotic about color. Capture One, for them, they just insist on it. And so, okay, if it's your dime, I'll shoot in Capture One,
Yeah.
which is an even more complicated program than Photoshop and
And different looking,
Yeah.
and ultimately very different looking.
yeah, it's
I have a question, Alan.
go ahead.
This is Brian.
Yeah.
In regards to shooting, do you use flash or do you use constant light or natural light when you shoot your still lifes and your food?
For still lifes and food, it's always continuous. It's LED.
Okay.
Only because I mean, for my clients who are hanging over my shoulder most of the time, I don't like flashes going off because it startles them and then they bang into things and kick my tripods and whatever. If only, even for most portrait work, I will work with continuous light because I just don't like the flashes going off. If I'm working with dancers or motion or pores, water droplets, whatever, and I need to freeze motion, that's when I pull out the strobe lights.
And it looks like you shoot kind of lower contrast lighting and you make the contrast in your editing. Is that true?
No, just what you saw today.
Okay. Very nice. That's awesome. Thank you.
I have a question, Irina. Hi, great presentation. I'm just, I have a question about the resolution of texture and like flower, whatever you use.
Mhm.
Do they have to be similar, or if there is a big?
When I started, I've only been a photographer for 15 years, maybe, yeah, 15 years. When I started, I had a little Nikon that shot, 4,000 by 2,000 files or whatever, approximately. Now I shoot medium format, so the files are 11,000, 102 megapixel. I still have those original, a couple of textures from way back when.
Uh-huh.
I will still use them, but if I'm doing a wall in a retail store, because some clients are crazy and they say, do us a mural and fill the wall, I will pull out the bigger files or reshoot things. So it depends on the use. If you're doing it for fun, don't worry about it. Just have fun.
Sure. And I now do a lot of just make pictures with my iPhone, and I love it. I used to work with camera, and then when there is a texture and I want to to enlarge it,
Yeah.
would it affect? I mean, the resolution, so the resolution would be different in my main picture and texture. Would it be?
It depends. It depends on. Really depends on the two images. If it's a flower on black and it's very isolated and dramatic and very isolated, and you're putting a texture over it and that texture is very pixelated, you will likely see it. But there are software programs, Topaz has a very
Yes.
up-resing program. So there are
Yes.
workarounds.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alan, I'm a Fuji shooter. I just wondered what you're shooting with.
I have an X-T5 as my baby camera, and I have a GFX 100S2 as my studio camera, and my bigger walk-around camera when,
Thank you.
I have a question. Well, it's not really a question. Yeah, it is. I have some of your textures, and I was wondering, are you going to sell any more of your textures?
Sure. Yeah, but
Is it on your website or anything?
yeah, or I'll figure something out with Angel. I mean, she invited me here, so I want this
It's
to
fine.
be beneficial, but shoot your own, Ellen. I'm happy.
I know. I should.
Alan,
Yes.
ahead.
Charles here. Do you do much work in black and white? That's my favorite.
Yes, I do a shit ton, another technical term. Yeah, and in fact, every part of my daily editing practice is I will pick a few images and I will do them both in color and in black and white. And I force myself to do that. And if I could process every single image in color and black and white, I think we will all, that would be something I can't force myself to do as much as I believe it would make me a better photographer.
Yeah.
I
Do
believe
you
it would
take
make
your
all of us a better
color?
photographer.
Do you take your color image to its perfection first and then convert to black and white? Or
Depends
do
on
you
my
start
mood.
in black and white?
Sometimes I'm in a too cheerful a mood and I need to bring myself down. I know it may be hard to believe that I can be too cheerful. And sometimes the world at large has me so distraught that I need to find some level of color somewhere. And so all of us start from a place and hopefully use this passion of ours to get to a better place. And
Yes. Agree.
right?
Alan,
Yeah.
this is Teresa. Do you shoot all of your textures, or are there some that like come with the Lightroom or Photoshop?
I shoot at this point, I shoot all of my own.
Okay.
It gives me something to do.
Oh, should have enough.
And I actually have a book called Beautiful Walls to Bang Your Head Against. And the notion is there are these walls that are waiting for you to, metaphorically speaking, bang your head against them because breakthroughs happen. And we all need a beautiful wall, and some of them are new and you will gain experience together, and others are very experienced and have been there before and will help you through these breakthroughs. And so it's just, right? We all need these interesting things. It started as a stupid project and it turned out to be a beautiful project.
Pretty cool.
Find a project, people.
Alan,
Yeah.
this is Betsy, and first I want to say thank you so much for this presentation. It's been phenomenal. I'm going to go back and really try to figure out more details and write it down and try to own it. But what I want to also thank you for is at the summit, you did an amazing presentation and talked about your cookie sheet. And I went and took that idea, and I had this photography show that I entered, and it was the section was on War of the Roses. So I took black and sort of off-white roses and dark pink roses and turned it into a black and white. And I took my very used cookie sheet and I put it under it, and it made this really great photo, and it ended up winning the show and Best in Show. And I want to thank you for that, because I never would have come up with that if I hadn't watched your summit.
Excellent.
So awesome.
Excellent. You see, it's good to have an assist every now and then.
Absolutely.
I also want to just second the summit idea. I haven't won any awards, but I live in Minnesota where it is cold and bleak in the winters, and I go stir crazy. And I I was really inspired by that talk of yours at the summit this year. And I'm actually almost looking forward to winter so I can put your ideas to the test. So you really inspired me. I just want to say that as well.
Excellent. Okay, you want a couple of new projects, people? Okay. So this is one I taught a few months ago, but it's captivated me, and I literally want to come into everybody's house because you all have a junk drawer in your home. Some of you may have multiple junk drawers. I want you to empty out your junk drawer and I want you to make art. Trust me. You can make art from old rubber bands and thumbtacks and whatever Post-it notes and whatever's. All right. You are coming up on holidays. You all have family coming or you are all going somewhere for the holidays, how many of you have made family cookbooks with your families? Sounds daunting. Pick a favorite recipe and document it. And share it with everybody you love. And then do it again and make it an annual event for as long as you're alive. And or get all the people in your family to do it with you on each. Invite grandkids over, invite cousins over, invite brothers and sisters over, and each create a series of recipes and then share them with everybody before it's too late. Take all the things you love and make images and share them. That's what we do as photographers, right? Cherished memories. There's nothing more valuable. It's kind of the most priceless stuff we have. What are you waiting for? You've all got the cameras. You've all got family. You've all got homes full of things that when you look at them, they bring back incredible memories. Make art.
Alan, I have a question, Sabby. Do you always work at the 2% flow when you're masking and using the brush?
Yeah, sometimes I get a little crazy, Abby, and I go to 4%.
Okay, thanks.
Sometimes it depends on how patient or impatient I am. If I know that I'm taking away a big part of an area, I'll go up. But I want you to get used to working patiently. And again, not to waste time, because I'm the first one who would rush through something. But there's a big difference between taking everything away at 100% or painting at 100% and painting at 2, 3%. And try it for a day, all of you, and see what happens and see how it changes. Try this in Photoshop or in whatever painting program you use, even whether you use Procreate or Photoshop or whatever. Do a brush stroke at 50% opacity and 50% flow. And then do a second stroke on top of it and look at the difference. And you'll see why you should use flow, not opacity. One is additive,
Thanks.
the other is, it is what it is. If you work at 50% opacity, that's it. If you work at 2% flow, you can ultimately get to 100%. It's like you're just going over the same line and it's building and building. So it's an additive effect, no different than we all painted as kids or colored as kids. That's the way to do it. You'll find it's much more intuitive, much more natural, much more satisfying.
Alan, one more question, please. In regards to your photos that you're doing with the birds, like the texture layers, do you keep going back and forth painting and unpainting the bird and the textures until you're happy? And then when you add more textures, it gets covered up, but you keep like bringing the bird back out so you get more details and contrast back?
I'd have to show you a few. The first 2 or 3 layers. So most of my birds, the vast majority, because I have friends who trust me at zoos, and a good friend of mine is a guy named Joel Sartori, who is a National Geographic photographer who's got a project called the Photo Arc. So he's been kind enough, he's become a buddy, and he and I will go shooting together. So when he knows I like ugly birds, so he'll take me and we go in and we'll set up a seamless, and there's no bars, and so whether it's on white or on black, those first couple of layers, that's where the masking of the bird becomes really important. After that setup, it's really you're working on the details around the bird and a little bit of integration, like cracking through, no different than a painting. So it's not really too much back and forth. It's just, it's sometimes by the 30th layer, it's it's a corner of a blue little streak of paint to emulate like a crack, you know, an underlying layer having been revealed with stuff. It's stupid and it's relaxing at the same time, right? I get so lost in it, and it becomes thinking time. It's percolation time. I'm an advertising guy, so you know, I get lost in the process, and so I think my big thoughts while I'm doing it.
That's a great example. Thank you for the explanation. I have a ton of pictures of roosters and hens, and I would love to try this technique with that painted canvas look.
Hang on, Brian.
So Alan, do you have to start off with, like, for example, your bird photographs? Do they start with a black, white, or gray background?
Nope. Anything. It's more of a challenge. The busier the background, the more the interaction of the texture with the background becomes, you know, a mishmash of things. So
okay.
So it depends on, you know, just work to keep your backgrounds as simple as possible, even if it's the greenery of trees. I mean, I've done quite a lot out in the wild where I've got a huge landscape of, you know, sky and mountains and trees and lots of contrast. Then it doesn't work as well.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, what do you say we move to our member submitted images? Alan, that's a gorgeous print. Can you hold that up again? Because I think we didn't get to see it for very long. Look at that. That's awesome. Very cool. So our members have submitted some images, and Alan's going to give his feedback on those. And even if it's not your image being reviewed, we can always learn something from the comments and the questions. So I'm excited to see what Alan has to say about these. And Alan, I think I put that in the chat for you, the link.
You did? How far back?
Oh, I sent it just to you. They have like a new thing for the Zoom chat. Do you see it?
No, but you know what? Let me just open my email and I'll find it there.
Here, I'll do it again.
Okay. Oh, wait, I see it. Nope, I got it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and I better grab the list so I can tell you the titles and the people that created it.
Okay. All right. So it looks like I only have 15 now. I have to share from here. Boom. Share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
So you have to hit present and then full screen.
Say that again.
Up there at the top, it says present. You're gonna hit that and then full screen.
I can do
and
that.
then present again.
Full screen, present. Is that
There you
better?
go. Yes.
Okay, let me just get rid of this drop down. And no, what's happening? It just got bigger. What are you seeing right now?
We're seeing what I think is the first image with dream catchers.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. So I've got, okay. So is this the full image? Or did
Yes.
it zoomed in?
No, that's the full image.
Okay, got
I
it.
think.
Yeah.
Patricia's here, so she can tell us if that's the full image.
That's the full image. You got it.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. So
Okay.
first,
So this is
where were
by
you?
Patricia Freeze, and it's called Whispering Dreams.
Okay. Did you have good dreams that day?
I did. It was a very good day. Lots of beautiful country. This is in Monument Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
So I have, this is always tough for me because I am curious about the things that I'm not seeing. So don't hear it as anything other than my brain wanting to know, did you take an image of the dream catchers in focus and the monuments out of focus? For no other reason than, did you look at both of those options?
No, it's all one image.
No, I understand that, but did you focus on the dream catchers as opposed to the monuments? I mean, clearly the focus here, where you want me looking, is the monuments in the background, right?
Right,
And
right.
did you
I was focusing on the monuments and the wind was blowing, so there was movement
okay,
in the dream catchers.
got it. And did you look at bending down or looking, looking at having the dream catchers sort of clear the monuments over to the buttes over on the far right? Is there a way of doing that? And again, I don't hear criticism. I'm just wondering what your situation was, because sometimes you walk into an area and the shot is the shot and you can't move around. So
Right, right. I did a little bit of that, moving around, but yes, I'm with you on that. I wish I would have had a lower angle where the dream catchers were clearing the monuments.
okay. So I am so intrigued by this whole thing. I love monuments. I love the detail that I'm seeing in the monuments. And I'm totally captivated by the almost abstraction that the dream catchers are, because they were moving. I almost wish they were moving more, like that they were blurred a little bit more. I wonder if that wouldn't have been a little bit more conceptual. But again, that's neither here nor there, because I think it's a lovely image and it's very thoughtful and very evocative for me. And from I guess that's it. Something about the posts in the foreground, like the reason I asked if you had the ability to bend down, like I wish there was a little bit more of the posts, like because of how they're cropping out. It just makes me a little uncomfortable. But again, it's a minor nit in the scheme of things.
Do you mean more space under the lowest rail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a part of me that almost would have, like, you see where the little bit of the covering, what is the piece of fabric that's knotted and hanging.
Yeah.
Like, there's a part of me that after you had taken the shot, I might have walked over, and if I could have reached it, like tossed it over the top to try and get it out of the way. But that's me. Like, again,
No, it was actually touching. I mean, I actually used the remove tool.
Oh, there was more?
Yeah, it was longer. So, and touching that third dream catcher from the left. So, I didn't like that tangent. So I used the remove tool to remove part of it. And I was wondering if I should have just removed the whole thing.
I don't know, but I think the wonderful opportunity is you can try it on a virtual copy, and then you can decide later.
Okay.
So part of my practice is, as we heard earlier, is to make maybe 2 or 3 or even more virtual copies and play around with options, and then I go get a cup of coffee, and then I come back and see which one catches my eye and, you know, feels more successful.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but what a wonderful place to have been and to have seen that, and good on you.
Thank you. Thanks
So
for
I'm inspired by what Alan was just talking about, and I had an idea, so I'm going to share it. What if you have, I'm sure you have lots of frames from here because no one can just like walk up to a scene like this and take one picture, right? And so, and I know you, Patricia. I know you have a lot of frames. What if you took the dream catchers from this frame and made them like on a layer, sort of, you know, with a low opacity, and strung them across like the top of the image, or so they were just sort of like a hint, like almost like a texture and barely visible, but they're there. So I don't know, just something that might be fun to play with.
that would give it a more ethereal kind of spiritual type of,
Oh, for sure.
Almost dreamlike.
right. All right. That would speak more to
It might be kind of fun, you know, like spirit moving through there.
yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay. How do I advance this, Angel?
If you click down in the lower right-hand corner with that blue button, it should take it forward one.
Aha. Is this one?
No.
No, that
So
went
if you
all
click
the way
right
to
at the end, it'll
end.
take it all the way to the end.
Okay.
Now,
There we go. Wait. This is the first image. Here we go.
here we go. And this one is called Maze by Kanan Karatikin. And Kanan, if you're still here, am I saying your last name correctly?
Last name, yes. First name is Janan.
Oh,
It's just
it's
pronounced Janan. Pronounced Janan. Yeah.
Jana. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Why would you call this maze?
Because it is a maze.
I'm kidding. I'm sorry. You can't see me smiling. I'm sorry. This is absolutely fascinating, and I want to know how long this, I guess it's a child, how long it was roaming around there, like, and what noises he or she was making. And is this infrared, Jana?
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. And did it actually rain, or was it just a dramatic sky? And like, I find this feels like a really interesting, eerie, in a delightful way, dream that we might have had after coming out of Monument Valley with the dream catchers, and now here we are, in a totally different place. I'm connecting everything now.
Yeah, I took this weekend actually. It was at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. So they have this maze. And it did rain after this. It was a overcast day, and it did rain later in the afternoon. And this happened like seconds. There's a place where you go up the stairs and look at the maze from above. I just went up there. There was a family coming by. The kids were playing. They ran in, they ran out. I took maybe 2 to 3 shots over 5 seconds, and it was over.
Beautiful. I would go back knowing this is possible, and I might do some long exposures just because that would be fascinating and very ghost-like. I'm thinking about The Shining. Do you remember the maze scene in The Shining?
No.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you have to watch The Shining and then call me.
Took the words out of my mouth, man.
Right? I'm not going to hurt you, Wendy. Okay. Lovely.
We were just watching my son is in the film industry. We were just watching a video last night that he was showing us on how they shot that scene. And I guess they set up like the maze, just the tiny inner part where they were walking around in a parking lot, and then superimpose the model over that so they could actually run around in the maze part right in the center I don't know. You have to see the movie so you know what
Oh wow.
what
I
you're
mean, like
looking at there.
it was so viscerally freezing cold. But for the we'll talk after everybody's seen the movie.
Okay.
We should have a movie review night and then we'll go from there.
Viewing party.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. I have so many questions.
Okay, this one is called Let the Rest of the World Go by Dave King.
Okay. So Dave,
Yes.
is that chair yours?
Yes.
Okay. Is that your honey?
Yes.
Okay. And you're happy, right?
Am I ever?
Okay, perfect. And how was the beer? Was it empty at the time? Or were you just beginning?
I can't recall.
Were there more beers consumed during this process?
Not by me.
Oh.
This is a woman that I knew 50 years ago that visited my house up on top of this mountain and needed an escape. And the theme of these photos was storytelling. And I kind of thought that this told the story.
It sure does. I find these sort of single frame narratives absolutely fascinating because my overactive brain just starts making up all kinds of different stories. Like this becomes a sport for me. It's like, all right, did she scare the guy off, or did he run away, and what happened, and what kind of cigarettes were they smoking, and were they really cigarettes, and so on and so forth, and why are there glasses, and why is there nothing to read because there are glasses, and on and on and on. But then I go to the sky, and it's absolutely fascinating. My only criticism, and it's not really a criticism, it's just when you have something that is so singular and intentional, is be aware of all of the tangents relative to the edges of the frame. So the thing that the bit of chair that in the foreground that is kind of hitting the edge, just I wish it had a little bit more breathing room. But that is a tiny nit in a lovely image.
Well, I thought I just put enough in it that I wouldn't get that criticism.
Yeah.
But what I also did was shoot this in, it's everything I do is on my iPhone. So this was in 16:9 format, and it was too tight, the top. So I went into Photoshop, as Angel had taught us.
Yeah.
And just did a generated, whatever that word is, addition to the top about a half an inch, so it wouldn't be cramped. And
right, I want you to do 1/8 of an inch on the bottom.
Okay, I will. That's perfect.
Just to see if you like it. And again, it's just a suggestion.
Oh, I can see it. That'll make a big difference. And I'm just really upset because I didn't think of that.
Well, you can't think of everything, especially in the moment, especially when you have the story playing through your brain and you just want to capture it. So, okay, nicely done.
Thank you.
Okay, who next? I am not qualified to weigh in on this image because I am neither silent nor contemplative, and
oh, do you want me to talk?
Yes, come on, Val.
Okay. This is on the other side of our continent in Australia, which is in Perth. And this is on the top of, oh gosh, I can't even think of the hill, but it's in the Botanical Gardens, and it's a war memorial. and it just spoke to me. That's all I can say.
Okay. So where do you want me looking? What do you want me? I love the asymmetric composition of the whole thing. I'm totally intrigued by the monument being all the way off to the right. You know, it feels very balanced in its imbalance. But I'm curious, you know, do you want me looking at the obelisk? Or do you want me looking at the fire in the sort of reflecting pool? You want me noticing?
It's a really hard one because I actually took some of the fire in the pool separately.
Yeah.
And I had to avoid a lot of people because there was a lot happening.
Sure.
I don't know. I just, it was just a holistic thing.
Yeah.
That I felt was good. Because the yellow flowers are sort of is the sea circle, but there was also monuments around it as well in those blocks. So I couldn't take the whole thing, and I just had to sort of cut it a little bit because there was more to it.
Yeah,
but I felt this was kind of the essence of the scene.
Cool. This feels like one of those locations where I want to do a photo essay and look at all of the singular elements that comprise this. So you did this and it's you clearly. So now if you have the opportunity, is this close to you or are you literally far
I'm
away?
on the other side. I'm on the other side of the continent.
Okay. So here's good news. You found it. It spoke to you. Well done. For me, I want to, as long as you as the artist are clear in what you want the viewer to take in whatever order you want us to take it in. So be clear in your intent. And as long as you are clear, then nothing else matters.
Okay.
My question is to really understand where the story begins and ends. Because there is a lot going on in this.
Yeah, there is. I think I like the fact that the War Memorial is on the top of a hill and it's looking over a city. That's one of the things. And I think I like the element of the flame above a pool. And it's hard to sort of explain, but
so I am.
It's in Kings Park, Val.
Oh, thank you, Marnie. I knew you'd been there.
Thank
you.
So I had no idea this was a war memorial.
Yeah.
And I have a huge, I am the son of a war veteran. I shoot for the US Navy. I have done ongoing projects for all sorts of, you know, veteran groups and defense contractors who are celebrating veterans. And so for me, this place feels sacred, but I didn't know it from the image. So if you have the opportunity to go back, I would love to understand it in more detail, personally.
Okay.
That half sun that's sitting on the memorial, Alan, is the Australian Defence Force insignia.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Very interesting. Makes me want to go. So.
Okay.
And then we can do a workshop and a walkabout. And
that's manageable.
Right?
Yeah, that certainly isn't Marnie? Two-person workshop.
Okay.
All right, this one is called Friends in the Style of Robert Frank by Jonna Karatikin.
It's great.
Again, it fascinates me. did anyone notice, well, did the group have the ability to look at this in advance? Is this portfolio like a shared portfolio beforehand?
No.
Like, I don't know if you can tell, but between the two women on the right, there's an arm in the distance outstretched, right? I mean, like there's all these little tiny details. And what's with the guy and what's going on, and the woman on her phone, and it's fascinating to me. I'm curious about the processing decision, because it feels like I almost want a little bit more detail to just appreciate the image itself, some of the detail in the figures, particularly in the three friends.
Yeah, that's why I submitted it for this workshop to talk about the post-processing. I do weekly photography challenges with an online group called 52 Frames. And that week's challenge was in the style of a photographer that you like. And my idol is Robert Frank. So I tried to walk around channeling Robert Frank for a week. And this was just street photography. I was wandering around trying not to be too conspicuous. And I just saw these three women, and I was trying to think about like making a social commentary in the style of Robert Frank. And these three women to me seemed like they were disconnected from each other. They're obviously friends. They were there together to a concert. But they're all doing different things, looking in different directions. They're not interacting with each other. And there's this guy who photobomb the picture at the back, but he's black and he's turned away, and that maybe adds something to the story. So I tried to process this while trying to channel Robert Frank, his black and white style. But I don't know how you would process this. I'm not sure. So that's why I submitted it.
If you look at Robert's work, because a lot of his work was silver gelatin prints, and so even the blackest blacks are a little bit more subtle. They're not blacks. They're a little bit more like what I was showing you before, crushed, but it's a different process. So there's no pure blacks. There's a little bit less contrast. So I'm curious if you did an iteration of this and you just reduced the contrast by like 10% and looked at it and compared it to, like, open a portfolio of Robert's work and like literally take an eyedropper, like take an image and bring it into Photoshop if that's where you're working, or just take a reading on his darkest blacks. And I think you're going to find it's a very different reading than your darkest blacks. And I think that's what I'm responding to. It's a very contrasty image, and his work is a little bit less so. But that's neither here nor there. You mission accomplished, really well done, because his brilliant ability to see everyday scenes and the I don't want to say the absurdity, but the incongruity of people and relationships, like you saw, really, really well seen. Especially, the woman on the phone and the woman looking away and the gentleman looking away. It's like, they're all going in different directions. And even I'm just now noticing the dog, and even the dog looks, just out of sorts and like, what am I doing here? So it's very much a Robert Frank image.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, next we have The Harvest by Dave King.
Oh, good one, Dave.
Talk to me, David.
Well, I was on a mission to kind of document, there's a place in Idaho called the Palouse, which is a pretty famous place for photographers to shoot. And I came over the hill after looking at all these rolling hills and the shadows and all that, which I shot a lot of. And I saw this and I thought the other was cool, but this really tells the story. And I entitled it The Harvest. And it's, you know, I worked on it for like a couple of hours. It had all sorts of distractions in it and this and that and cars and wires and yada yada yada. Got rid of all that garbage, and then at the end I thought, well, let's just take a brush and make that pyramid a little brighter so your eye can look at all the details, but it just wants to go right back to that pile of wheat berries. Anyway, that was the thinking behind all this.
Hey, David, can you do something for me? Did you look at this in black and white?
I can't remember that I did, but
I would ask you to give it a go.
You think it'd be better in black and white?
I'm not. There's no such thing as better or worse. I just want you to take a look at it and see. I think there's.
And for what reason?
Because I think there's a lot of geometry, particularly in the grain silos and the structure of the whatever I don't even know what to call the main building that the silos are attached to. Is that a granary? You know, that the very geometric
Grain elevator.
These are grain elevators, yes.
Okay. So I love the structure of that, and I think you know, there's so much shape and form, and I wonder if in monochrome, where you could play with the range of tonality, I wonder if it wouldn't be more fluid and abstract and be just a little bit more cohesive as an image without the color. But I do, and also I'm curious about cropping in a little bit. But
I did not want to crop in. I did crop in quite a bit, but I wanted to leave that curve in front that led your eye around, and then the other curve went the other way and kind of set up that little foreground, which kind of led you back to the flat part. That was my thinking.
Yep. Yeah, it's such a fascinating scene. And I'm not sure how far away it was. Did you run down and like roll in the wheat berries or whatever that is?
Well, I did go up to them and climbed up on that little wall. But the shot was really this pyramid. This is like, I don't know how many millions of pounds of wheat, but that thing is about it's about 30 feet high, that pile of wheat.
Yeah.
And it was you know, it just really struck me. And then the colors, I understand you want me to try it in black and white, but the blue and the green and the gold, it just it all just popped out and really had a nice balance for me when I saw it.
Okay. Excellent.
So here's the thing about the Palouse. I think this image is amazing in color because I love the color palette here. It's just awesome. But I see what Alan's saying with all the really strong shapes in this image. And I shot one time from up on top of that famous butte there, Steptoe Butte. You know, the famous shot where you're looking out. Well, when I went up there, there was a forest fire. And so the colors were all really muted. And so I wasn't really that inspired by the colors, but the shapes were super inspiring. So I made a black and white image, and I got a lot of praise on that image because people are used to seeing the Palouse in color and these famous scenes in color, seeing it in black and white. showed them something different, and a bunch of photographers were like, oh, I never thought about seeing the police in black and white. So might be kind of fun to play with it.
Of course.
Okay, this one is called Garden Painter by William Hentosh.
You said William. Is William here?
Yeah, I am here, Alan. Yes.
Okay. Tell me about this.
Okay. A good number of years ago, our Arts Council members were invited to the lavender farm that's here in Garrett County, Maryland. And so if you wanted to come in or come and photograph the flowers or bring your a poem or a reading, or you wanted to paint the gardens, all the artists were invited to spend the evening there. And as I was moving around, one of our artists was there in the swing. I thought it was such a, not a unique, but a very picturesque setting of her painting the gardens as she sat there. And so I got up behind her, and I thought I'm going to get a picture of her painting the lavender. So it's kind of a story. I thought it was telling a story of of the gardens, as well as somebody who saw such beauty in it. And within
it's absolutely a very sweet shot, and the story is very lovely. I have a personal love of artists in gardens. I collect them. It's one of my ongoing projects. Whenever I see a painter, an artist, a whomever in a garden, I am hanging over their shoulder, talking to them, photographing their palette. That's shot one. Like, I always, can I shoot your palette? And they look at me funny. And then, can I watch you and can I document you for a little bit? Of course. And, tell me about whatever. And so this is just, it makes me smile. Couple of questions.
Yes.
Did you come, it looks like you're above her, like you're on a bit of a rise above her looking down. Were you, is that just...
the property, the lavender field sloped downwards, so I am just a little higher.
Okay.
Is that way you can see the flow of the greenery there down towards the main part of the flowers. So I was a little higher. Yes.
Got it. Do you have a few different views of her?
I may have taken a couple different shots of it. Yes.
Okay. Great. It's really just when you see a story unfolding, capture it from as many different points of view as possible, so you have it. Do you have any of her face?
No, I stayed behind her.
How come?
Well, I think I just wanted to capture her in her work, doing her art, her painting, and then having the lavender more as a secondary, as being spoken out, but it's still the main part of the photo of the image. So, but no, I did not go around and photograph her up front.
Okay.
But that would have been an interesting shot as well, as you're, I think you're focusing in on. You're right.
Well, I'm just, as someone who loves a portrait, and especially an environmental portrait, a portrait of an artist in their environment, whether they're studying the landscape or in the act of creating and focusing on their canvas.
Right.
There's just something fascinating to me about that, different from the bigger scene. So again, I'm seeing all the different photo opportunities, and they're all worthy of capturing. So I'm just...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I didn't think of it at the time, but now that you bring that part of it out, you're right. It would have been a totally different approach.
Different. Yeah. I mean, all the different ways we add to a story.
Right. Right.
Well, Alan, I want to comment on one thing. How much did William pay this woman to actually wear lavender for this photo?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, I think, I mean, I don't know. Don't you think when you're going to a lavender field, you're going to paint in a lavender field, you might pick out a special outfit?
Of course, but look at the color of her outfit, then the
Right
color
down
of
to
the
her
paint,
shoes, right?
the
And
color of the lavenders. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
man. You can't write this.
right. You are so right, David. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's too much of a coincidence, I guess. So
Okay. I want to meet this woman. I want to know what she's doing and how she got there.
This one is called Scouting by Patricia Fries. Patricia still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Patricia, is this also the Badlands?
It is.
Monument Valley?
Yes.
And were you also on horseback?
No, no. This was actually at the same spot as the previous one.
Okay.
There was just a lot going on at that particular scenic stop.
Mhm.
There were a lot of people taking portraits, and the Navajo provided the horse, and they led the horse out to this particular high spot, and then the subject of the portrait could get on the horse then, and yeah.
Oh, so this is a planned photo op for visitors. This
Cool.
is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. How convenient. How
Yeah.
how perfect. Okay. All right. So great, you got it. Do you have it in color as well? Like it looks to me to be a nice cloudy day. Was the color opportunity, like I don't know what time of day you were there at. Was it too midday for a color shot?
No, this is actually infrared.
Okay.
Shooting with 2 cameras, and one with color and one in infrared, and I had my longer lens on the infrared camera.
Okay.
So I went with this. I was really liking the infrared that I was shooting in the area. So I was predominantly shooting infrared.
Yeah, it's striking. It's striking. And again, you hear me, I am just such a curious person. I always want to, when I see something that is just such a grand sweeping image, I'm just curious about it in color and black and white, in,
Sure.
everything. I just want to.
It was beautiful.
I'll bet.
It was
really nice.
Late afternoon, I believe. Thank you.
Great shot. Loved it.
Thank you, Marnie.
Pleasure.
Okay, this one is called Hibiscus at Early Light by William Hentosh.
Okay. So, William, do you do a lot of flower photography?
I have 10 gardens on my property, so yes, I do a lot of flower photography. And I got out early the one day, and the sun is just starting to hit some of the garden areas, and we just had a class, or we just had a workshop with Jenny Weller, right, Angel? Jenny Weller? And
Yeah, I think it's Waller, but yeah.
Weller, okay, Weller, and she really focused on her macro with and shooting them off the tripod. So I was trying some settings, just handheld.
Okay.
And the light just kind of hit this from the side very in a unique way. And I was shooting that. And then when I was looking at my images, I saw how I got the contrast of the yellow over the red, and then the silhouette of the shadow showing up on the white of the image. And so it was one of those more by chance that I was able to capture that.
So here's what I end up always. So she gave you a tough assignment because shooting handheld, if you're not used to it, particularly if you're this close up. So the super challenging part of extreme macro like this is you want whatever the absolute focus point is to be in focus.
Yeah.
In a case like this, it would be that forwardmost, the leftmost stamen, right?
Right.
And it's not, but you tried. So like, it's just one of those things where you have to either see the shot and so being off tripod to frame up and be able to be flexible and spontaneous and really move around quickly. But then when you see, oh my God, that shadow is so strong, and the fact that the yellow center part of the hibiscus against the red is so striking, that's where you pull out the tripod and you frame it up and you perfect the shot. So I want you to think about like the spontaneity that handheld is, and then perfecting with a tripod to nail whatever it is you want all of us to be focusing on. But I love the shadow, the contrast, everything you pointed out. I think, I don't know if you can see where my cursor is, but there's like a little bit of a black up right above the
yeah,
a little bit of a
some kind of something on the sensor. There must have been something on the sensor. I didn't see that.
Right, but I'd get rid of that. And I'm curious, one of the things I always do, because again, it's just the way my brain operates, is in whatever program, I might rotate this image. Like I might look at it as a vertical and just to see, and then I don't know, just because I'm twisting my head, and so that the shadow is pointing down and the stamen pointing up, and I'm wondering, is that interesting or not? Or it's just to challenge myself to see if anything else happens.
Yeah,
I like the shadow. The shadow of it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It definitely created an interesting shadow, that's for sure.
Absolutely. One of the things you could make as a project now that you've seen it is just these like more a study in shadows and in macro shadows.
It would be, it would be an interesting project for sure. Thank you, Al.
Again, it's just something to fill in the space in between. So next time you're walking around a garden or whatever, and you're shooting whatever's in bloom that moment, as you're walking around, you can be on the lookout for little macro shadows, or you can be on the lookout for whatever your personal project is. It's just another thing to collect.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Well done. Okay. Whose rose is this?
This is Val's, and it's called Lavender Rose.
I can't imagine.
Actually, it was, I think I was given a bunch of flowers, and I just I think I put it on the fireplace, which was cold, and just took photos of it. And I was kind of thinking, when you were doing your presentation, I'm thinking, oh, I could do some textures with this.
You sure could. You absolutely could. I think this is lovely. I like that it's wet. I like the little bud off to the side as a complementary, contrasting bit of color. The fact that it's imperfect, I'm looking at the little bit of the broken petal over on the far left. it is a lovely flower shot. And now that you bring it up, what would you do if you were challenged to make it a little bit more painterly in terms of adding textures? Or if you were to look at it and process it two totally different ways as a challenge. So you would just to force yourself to see it three different ways. What would you do? Not for any reason, good or bad, but just to get yourself to be able to make one of your works different through editing, just as a, you know, a creative exercise.
I think I would. I think one of your textures struck me. I'm just trying to think which one it was. I wasn't at the beginning of the lesson, but I think something with I don't know. I like the darkness, but I think I also would like sort of cracks around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking at the moment. I don't think blue would go with it, but I think I'd like a very old type of wall or something like that to go with it.
Yeah. Well, start with color theory. You know, think about the complementary color on the color wheel. What's opposite lavender? And that's one starting point. Think about more triadic colors. You know, if you were to divide the color wheel into thirds, what are those? Think about a more monochrome approach. Like if you were to keep it all in the lavender pink family.
Yeah.
And so that might draw more attention to the little bud, you know, over in the corner. So there's lots of starting points. And I think part of the fun is exploring all of them and then giving yourself a little breathing room, getting a cup of coffee, coming back and saying, "Oh, that one calls to me," and then taking that further.
Yep. I agree. That's what I was thinking when you were talking, and I thought, oh, I could do a lot with that now.
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay.
All right. This one is called Freeway by Marnie Hagmere.
Guilty as charged.
All right, Marnie.
Okay. This is, for once I was a passenger in a car. We very rarely drive down this road. So I took some photos with my iPhone just as we were whipping along. And this to me shows, you know, what a modern road looks like, to try to protect other people from its hideousness and its noise and its intrusion. And the contrast in the wavy colors of the noise shields rather versus the well, they're not all horizontal, obviously, but the straight lines of the edge of the road and the curb and the flagpole or light pole, I guess.
Yeah, it's such an interesting abstraction, and I can't decide if the light pole is a good thing or a bad thing. Like
you or me or either. I've had thought about it, and I thought, no, I'll just leave it in for now. Might take it out later.
Yeah, I mean, did you look at it without it? Did you make?
No, I must confess I haven't. We've had a long running emergency situation here, so I haven't done as much as I'd have liked. But I will take it out. That's quite easy to do.
Right. Yeah, totally. But these sort of like just abstractions that are just they're so obvious, and yet when you capture them and you see how beautiful they are and so artful, it's like, oh, and like we're driving by these all the time, or things.
Yeah, but you can't photograph them if you're driving and you take your photograph here. It's you know,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
so
seeing-
glad like you were a passenger, and because it was my first question, as a concerned parent, I wanted to make sure you weren't driving and you didn't stop in the middle of the road and do.
Unlike the learner who stopped on a green light in front of me at 70 kph the other day.
Yeah. Okay. Very well seen.
Thank you. I like abstract.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this one is also by Marnie, and it's called Into the Light.
I just saw I was in Perth, like Val, on the other side of the continent recently, and there was a well, I'm going to call it a fish pond, but it wasn't. It was full of koi, and I was looking at the koi, and I suddenly saw this beautiful water lily in a rather gungy pond, and I thought, well, good things come out of bad things, and this poor little flower's coming out into the light, and it's in a rather, unpleasant place to be.
It's like being in America right now.
Well,
I
what we
shouldn't have
know
said
about
that. I
it, yeah.
apologize. Let's rewind the tape, take that back.
No, you'll only get applause from Australians.
No. That was totally
Yes.
That is oh God, I'm so, my filter is tired. I apologize.
We'll second the motion, Val.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
No
one of-
worries. No, anyway, sorry, Alan.
Your description is it's perfect. I mean, like, and speaks to me because I find there's truth in the world around us that is echoed in the art we create, and we all need to exercise our demons or work through the things that are surrounding us and weighing heavy on us. And one of the things that I like to do is, find light in the darkness. And
Me too.
this delivers on that, right? So really well done. And the fact that the pond is mucky and yucky and, there's just detritus, however you pronounce that word, the flotsam.
I'll just call it gunge.
Yeah, gunge is good. All we need is a snapping turtle but also
we don't have them,
right?
We don't have them.
Yeah.
We can give you a shark or two, but
yeah. So well seen.
Thanks very much, Alan.
Okay, I'm gonna stop my sharing. Is everyone still awake? We've lost a few people.
We are.
Okay.
Just the diehards here.
Lunchtime.
Yeah.
It's late for you.
No, it's not.
Lunchtime for us.
Exactly, Val. I've been eating almonds.
Oh, I've got to go out soon too.
Well, thank you so much, Alan. Thank you for the image reviews. Thank you for sharing your processes with us. I think that we are all inspired to try something new, maybe dive into a few new tools inside of Lightroom and Photoshop, but also I love that you opened up possibilities for us and invited us to play. And that's always a good thing. And it's just, it's like we're dropping a pebble on a pond here at base camp, and then just the ripple effect is always amazing because you had people come back and share, that they were inspired by something they saw on the summit and created stuff from that. So I can't wait to see what everybody creates from this. And just always keeping an eye on what you do because it's always amazing. So thank you for that.
Could we please have Alan back?
Yes, please.
For those of you, so I have one of my favorite things to do, because again, as a not quite newish photographer, but someone who never thought it would become a career, and it did, but as someone who found a hobby like we all did and had it turn into a career that was unexpected, I am incredibly grateful, and I feel like it's good karma to pay it forward and to share, which is why I do it. Part of the creative process for me as a creative person, I'm an advertising guy, is to just share all the stories. And sometimes the stories are literal about where I was and what I was feeling and how I did it. And sometimes the stories are just crazy, silly things that pop into my head, the carnival that's my brain. The place I do that is my social network, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. So if you want to keep track, that is where to keep track. So am I allowed to give like a little commercial for how to
Yeah.
find me, or is it in whatever the email?
I think
Angel?
it's in the email, but if you want to put it in here so people can click on it, that's fine.
I'm trying to get out of.
While Alan's putting that link there, I just want to share with you guys that our next meeting is on September 23rd, and it's going to be earlier. So I apologize in advance to the Australians, but we're having a European photographer named Mark Bauer, and since he's in the UK, we're having base camp at 1 p.m. Pacific. So if you guys save that date and time on your calendar, because it'll be a little different next time.
Be a recording.
We will.
Yeah.
Or you guys have to get up really, really early.
Won't even be here.
That's Facebook.
Be in Sri Lanka.
Oh,
You'll be in Sri Lanka?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Well, Alan, while you do your searching there,
No,
I just
there
want
it
to
is.
I want to compliment you on not only teaching us different technical things, but doing it under the guise of inspiring creativity. That is the key to your magic here, and it's really a wonderful thing and a wonderful trait you have, man. And I'm sure we all appreciate how you've spurred us to be more creative. A really great job, man.
Thank
well
you.
said, Dave. Well said.
Thank you. It's important. I like finding new comfort zones, getting out of our current comfort zones.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing more gratifying and there's nothing more satisfying than for all of us to do it kind of together. So
Very
So you
cool.
guys can click in the chat. Alan put his Facebook and his Instagram there.
So that's where I talk about everything, if I'm doing something, but you can probably ask Angel and she will, she'll know what's going on. And that's that.
Yeah, and I would love to have you back anytime. So you guys send me an email and let me know, what you want to learn and what you're most interested in. I think we could do a deep dive on textures. I think that would be really, really fun. And those of you guys who are participating in the scavenger hunt, there are prompts in the scavenger hunt where you could take what Alan was talking about. I really loved what he said about, how each one of us goes through our life and the things that we fill our homes with and the things that we collect, our experiences and, but also just like the things. And there's prompts in the scavenger hunt where there's things like something you collect or fill the frame with flowers or, like a couple of these things. You could, take some of the things that you were learning tonight and use that opportunity to do it in a very artistic way. And so sometimes we just need that little, kick in the butt to get out there and do it. So we thank you for that kick in the butt. That's a technical term. We
One more
thank you for
easy
that
one.
tonight.
This is my favorite because we all have a refrigerator besides the junk drawer.
Right?
Okay, 3 items and a baking sheet or something. It could be a surface, a tablecloth, a table, a baking sheet, right? 3 items, something from the crisper drawer, something from the door, like the condiment thing. And yes, you can take it out of the bottle. You can squeeze and splurt and do things. And then something from the main refrigerator. Feel free to take things out of the package. It doesn't have to be a carton of milk. You can take it and it can be a hot dog, not a carton or a package of hot dogs. 3 things. Make art.
I love it.
All right.
Right? When you
Challenge thrown out.
Angel,
Yeah.
just I sent you a message, an email. I'm having trouble getting into my album. It's in the email.
Okay. We'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
see
All
everybody.
right, you guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Alan, thank you so much. And we will
Nice meeting
see
you
all of you
You're,
soon.
you're kind of all new to me. We had some of my friends in the earlier part of the meeting, but you guys you're like new family. This is fun.
Yay.
Equally
right.
mad.
Bye.
See y'all.
We'll see you soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.